Hello and welcome back once again to CBR MTG. We are in round 5 of our CANCON 2019 Highlander National Championships. I'm joined here by Philip Nicholson.
Hello there.
And Jake Sims.
Hey guys.
We're here to party. We're here to have a good time. Luke is on UB control, not to be mistaken for UB Delver, which is an absolutely completely different deck. Luke's deck taking him to the top 8 finish at GP Melbourne 2018. So congratulations to him, and he's looking to sort of run it back with a very similar deck, maybe a couple of tweaks here and there, up against Tony on Bant Aggro. Bant Aggro. Phil, why don't you run us through it? Tell us how it ticks and some of the good and bad parts about the deck.
Yeah, so Bant Aggro is just a deck that Tony's been playing for a while. I don't think I've ever really seen him play a different Highlander deck. Just playing the cheap aggressive creatures that you can get out of the Bant colors. Along with a bit of the kind of disruption and spot removal that mostly the blue and the white bring to the table.
Yeah.
There is occasionally a bit of, I guess, anti-synergy between cards like Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, and then your counter spells like your dazes and your mental missteps.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've definitely seen him play Shardless Agent at various points, which can be similarly rough with some of those cards. Yeah. But when you don't have the bad bits come together like that, usually churns along pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to kind of give up on the value of Shardless Agent into a Savannah Lion or into a Strangleroot Geist or something like that. But you don't often expect to see the suite of counterspells that Tony is playing in his deck. We saw the Daze in his hand, and he's also playing Mental Misstep and I think Mana Drain as well, but I could be wrong about that one. No, but he is playing. He's playing Mox Emerald, Green Sun Zenith, Strip Mine, and Jit and Trino Nemesis as his points, which seem to be a pretty normal aggro suite of points. Strip Mine recently becoming a one-pointed card, so just taking advantage of the fact that he can play that over Wasteland now, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, interestingly. After playing Mother of Runes on turn 1, which is usually a pretty great start against a control deck if you're the aggro player. It's kind of opting to attack with it and then stick a Rancor on it turn 3 for attacks.
Hell yeah.
So I guess without another creature in hand, another threat other than that 4-mana Elspeth, he's kind of decided that leaving Mother of Runes back to protect only herself isn't really worth it compared to the damage she can get in, especially with a Rancor attached.
So the difference between sort of Kess Pile and UB Control is that you don't have access to the burn suite, such as Colligan's Command and Lightning Bolt. So really your removal spells are kind of in the form of Fatal Push and Edict effects. We look like we're going for a Mana Drain here, but Tony does have the Daze, so we are seeing a couple of good points. He's probably just trying to take those tempo plays at this point, just getting in damage while he can. I mean, it is 3 damage a turn, which if Luke trips up or can't find an answer quick enough, it's going to be bad beats for him. Unfortunately, with the Liliana in hand, he won't be able to answer the Mother of Runes just yet because of the island swamp configuration that he has right now.
There is a good reason that Luke is playing a lot of basics, is because he is playing main deck back to basics.
Yep.
Which is recently depointed, so that's just open the door to try and punish all the greedy 4-color and cast decks that are running around the room at the
time. Speaking of getting punished, Luke's Toxic Deluge for one is unfortunately being answered by Dromoga's Command. I'm definitely interested if Tony went for the swag, you sacrifice an enchantment, or the swag, Toxic Deluge deals no damage. Because they're both pretty great secondary choices there.
It looks like after card number 3, he will be able to get rid of this Mother of Runes eventually. But he's taking 10 life points off Luke, so hopefully he can manage to get the last few down. But with that back to basics in his hand, it's going to be very hard for Tony to try and finish off the job here.
Yeah, so Tony's just going to go find the aforementioned Strangleroot Geist, I would imagine here. Just a haste way to finish off this low loyalty Planeswalker, and a pretty resilient creature against control decks that aren't in white
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Doesn't have to worry
given-
about Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshare, so he can just get 2 goes out of his Strangleroot Geist. Plus, it gets stronger on the second go around. So.
Yeah, Undying is definitely a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for him, Luke is sitting on that back to basics, which is gonna, if Luke kind of runs it out here, it'll leave Tony with just that Mox Emerald as his only mana source.
Which is going to be very difficult, I think. But at least he's got something on the battlefield. You know, like Luke could just turn around and Windmill Slam this back to basics, which seems to be a good time to do it. But
though that is a Mox Emerald, and Luke and Tony are both aware of the Rancor that is sitting in Tony's hand.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point. The Rancor is going to definitely help get through some of those damage.
Well, if
points.
Luke has a land drop here, he could very well have access to, I believe there's a Diabolic Edict in his hand, so he could have a kind of back to basics plus Edict turn, but he probably was missing that land drop, and so opts for the cantrip to kind of
Inquisition feels nice though. If that's did he pull it off the top? Maybe he decided against it in the end.
Looks like a goaded for the throat.
Yeah, I think that if your goal is to play back to basics in this kind of board state, you don't really care that much about Inquisition, because obviously if your opponent rips the answer to back to basics, whatever that may be in their deck, they're just going to run it out.
Yeah.
So you're never.
I mean, taking down the Rancor wouldn't have been too bad. It depends on what he had in hand, but taking down the Rancor would be okay if you had already locked down with back to basics.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on the plan of assuming that back to basics is going to kind of get you there, then you're taking 2 more damage from the Rancor this turn, but after that doesn't really do anything to you, assuming you have the removal for Strangleroot Geist.
Yeah.
Which you need to have, because even without Rancor, it's going to eventually kill you.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. It's interesting to see. I probably would have considered getting the Rancor back to Tony's hand just in case you could discard it with the Hymn to Torok, but maybe that's not a good line. What do you think?
Well, if you have an instant speed answer to the Geist, you want to do it in combat because it prevents Tony from attacking that turn. So if you were to kill the Geist with a Diabolic Edict and then Hymn to Torok just to get the Rancor back in hand, then it means that Tony gets to attack with a 3 power Strangleroot Geist on his next turn, even without Rancor.
That's reasonable.
Whereas this way, it means this turn Tony is attacking for 0 because the Geist is going to get removed from combat when is sacrificed to this Diabolic Edict.
Very interesting version.
I'll go for the throat. I mean, it all turns out to be the same.
Yeah. So Strangleroot comes back with a +1/+1 counter on it, and that's when it dies. So we'll be able to come back and attach a Rancor. So just a expensive fog, but a fog nonetheless. And Luke could use the extra untapped phase to try and lock down this game before the Strangleroot takes it away.
Well, as we all know, fog is and always has been a black mechanic with the card darkness, just like burn is a blue mechanic. So it really makes sense that the blue-black control deck is trying to pull its way into the late game with a fog effect.
With a fog or two, yeah. Diabolic Edict, one of the better fogs in the format, taking out our opponent's Strangleroot Geist. As we mentioned in a previous video, Edict effects very, very, very good in this format, possibly just because of the way the format is situated or the prevalence of True Name Nemesis, but it can be a very powerful card.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely players who, particularly in kind of the 3-color control decks like Grixis, are opting away from playing as many Edicts, or sometimes even just not playing any at all.
Okay.
Because kind of the answers that you're playing to cards like True Name Nemesis are just your Wraths, like your Donations and your Toxic Deluges. And Edicts are pretty bad against kind of the cards that you're already bad against. So something like Lingering Souls, you don't want to be casting an Edict into that.
Yeah, for sure.
And Lingering Souls is already a really powerful card against most control decks. So it's just kind of, if you're thinking that people might try and kind of play these answers to your strategy, you may as well kind of design your answers to be good against the things that are good against you.
This is Tony's pet card, Phantasmal Bear.
Yeah, it's a 2/2 for 1 with if it's targeted by a spell or ability, you sacrifice it.
Correct.
Yeah, it's
The
quite
same with all illusions, basically.
Most of them,
well,
yeah.
all of the phantasms.
Yeah,
It's
that one.
unlike most cards, a lot of creatures where you say bad card dies to Doomblade. This one has a bad card dies to Rancor. Which is pretty unfortunate,
Yikes.
given that was
Yikes.
Tony's.
Rancor in hand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
we
was
will not
probably
be.
hoping that was kind of just about any other aggressive one drop that he would have been able to cast there. But sometimes you take what you can get, and a 2/2 for 1 is decent value anyway. But it's gonna get mana drained here, which is a pretty big honor, I think, for the little bear.
Yeah, I'll take a Rancor. I'll take a mana drain out of my opponent's hand for a measly little phantasmal bear, but it is what it is. What it is. What it is. You know, sometimes I have targeted my phantasmal image after forgetting that it was a phantasmal image online and having it die. So it happens to the best of us, honestly.
And also to Angus.
And also to me. So really, it could happen to anyone.
Yeah. Tony was hoping to
that Knight of Autumn
get
would
rid
take
of
care
that.
of the back to basics, but no such luck.
Unfortunately, it was just a wee bit leaky, and so it was sunk to Tony's graveyard.
And it looks like that the back to basics will be able to push Luke into this game because he managed to just have enough basic lands that he could cast maybe 1 or 2 spells a turn, whereas Tony was very hindered on the on his options because his lands were so heavily tied down.
Yeah, I mean, until Luke has gone and found that I believe it's one of the cycle lands. I don't remember exactly what the blue-black one is called, but until
Fetid Pools is the cycle.
Yeah.
I thought it was Sunken Hollow.
Sunken Hollow is the check land, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the check land is Drown Catagram.
Check land for 2 basics.
This is an absolute travesty.
We got there in the end.
Until he found that, the only non-basic he had was the Creeping Tarpon, and everything else was basics. So he was pretty unhindered by his own back to basics.
Yeah,
despite its hideous art.
I assume a design choice by Luke playing this deck, wanting to up the amount of basics that you could play. Also allows the deck to be somewhat budget friendly. I mean, you still have to play an Underground Sea, and you probably still have to play the fetch lands and stuff, which will cost money. But I mean, with the reprinting of Mana Drain and back to basics, as we can see on the board, it will save you quite a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, pretty interesting that Luke opted to spell snare the Imzal's Jedi there. You know,
it doesn't really do very much.
Yeah, and given Luke's already incredibly low life total, he's already kind of in a position where he's going to lose to an unanswered creature.
Yeah.
So kind of opting to answer the thing that only makes that unanswered creature better is a bit strange when he can kind of hold that off for a 2-drop that Tony might be able to cast off his lands.
I feel like it could be a theory that that psychologists far and wide will put a name to if they ever played Magic too much. But the fact that you snap off a spell snare just because you see a 2-drop is probably like a real thing that people do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the same is also true of Mental Misstep.
Absolutely.
You know, when you've got those kind of limited counter spells like that, it's very easy to kind of just throw them off because they have a target and you have the spare mana.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like Luke does have enough to finish off this game. I believe he has a Mystic Confluence in hand and a True Name Nemesis, so whatever Tony's trying to do, Luke will be able to stop pretty sufficiently, but it looks like he's going to take down this True Nemesis and then play a land for his Mystic Confluence that he decides to flash to his opponent. So that was enough for Tony to scoop it up.
You know, Luke sitting on all these.
I still had all of these. My hand was literally overflowing with answers.
Yeah.
So Luke takes down the first game. Going into sideboards now. Jake, what do you see? What do you feel? How do you like it?
Well, Luke has access to Bitter Blossom, Blue Elemental Blast, Damnation, Duress, Engineered Explosives, Fairy Macabre, Blast of Storm, Fulminator Mage, Hydroblast, Nihil Spellbomb, Nullrod, Ravenous Chupacabra, I like that one, Relic of Progenitus, Search for a Scanter, and Teferi Mage of, I can never pronounce
Zalfir.
that. There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I like the Damnation. Tony is a creature-based deck, so having that kind of access will be good.
Seems pretty free.
Same deal with Engineered Explosives. I would like to see the Ravenous Duplicabra. Seeing that in Highlander would be very sweet.
It might just not. Maybe it's just not enough, right? If your opponent's playing multiple creatures, like
Yeah.
I mean,
2/2 blocker is
Chupacabra destroys a creature and blocks a second one. I mean, if you're going to put Chupacabra in your sideboard, it's for a matchup like this.
Okay.
If you're not going to bring it in here, you probably shouldn't just put it in your sideboard.
Yeah, that's definitely reasonable. Otherwise, I mean, Fulminator Mage has some benefit, but you're probably just okay with not playing that just because it blocks and kills one of his 3-color lands, of which he seems to have plenty. So you could further stifle his ability to make mana, but I can only assume that Fulminator Mage is in there for land-based strategies where it's actually relevant to take care of a land.
Yeah, I mean, it also has a lot of pull, or at least some pull against various, 4-color and 5-color aggro or even combo decks that are just kind of, or the mid-range greed piles, where cutting people off one or more colors is actually a really big deal.
Yeah.
Or even against something like Control, where destroying an Azcan to the Sunken Ruin or a Creeping Tar Pit is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
But against your aggro deck, you don't really want to be killing their lands after they've already used them to cast their creatures.
Yeah,
it's usually not great.
Reasonable. And on Tony's side, we have Eidolon of Rhetoric, Energy Flux, Gaddock Teague, Grafdigger's Cage, Grip of Phyrexia, Core Firewalker, Croson Grip, Mindbreak Trap, Obstinate Bailoff, Oversoul of Dusk, Rest in Peace, Seed Time, Stony Silence, Sword of Fire and Ice, and Sword of Feast and Famine. So another Seed Time deck. We were recently gushing over Justin Cheong's Seed Time in his deck that we never got to see, but this could be Tony's chance to show us what Seed Time truly does.
A lot of relevant cards in this matchup. Gaddock Teague is another amazing card against control decks. Shuts off Jace, it shuts off Cryptic Command, any big Planeswalker, it'll shut
Force
off
of Will, Damnation,
the EE that could possibly come in. That's got a lot of game against what Luke's up to.
A lot of Rhetoric is fine as well.
Yeah, I don't hate Rest in Peace
deck
as well. Shut Luke off some Snapcaster Torrential Gearhole kind of lines.
Sure. I'm not sure, yeah. I don't know. I'm a bit funny on the bringing in Graveyard Hate against Snapcaster Mage decks. Of course it's good, but you are trying to be the aggressive deck. So if you're spending your turn 2 not playing 2 1-drops, but instead playing Rest in Peace, it might just not do anything for the game,
I'm much more inclined to bring it in against a black-blue based control deck, because you can safely assume that there's a Gomag Angler, possibly a Tasigur in there. So
yeah, or Tombstalker,
Well, the Grixis control decks usually play some number of those cards too. But I do agree that I feel like against the control decks, I usually want my Graveyard Hate, if I'm playing any, to be either a creature or to be a cantripping card like a Nightfall Spellbomb.
Or a Relic of Regenerative.
And I don't think I'd be personally bringing something like Rest in Peace.
But it is a consideration. I mean, it does turn off Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise, of which we know Luke is at least playing Dig Through Time, so definitely not a bad idea.
I think,
but up for consideration, I would definitely say.
I think an interesting one here is the Soul of Dusk. So despite having protection from all of the colors of Luke's deck, I think it's actually a lot worse here than it is against the kind of the full Grixis deck, because Luke is leaning a lot more heavily into those Edict effects. And getting your 5 mana creature destroyed by a Diabolic Edict is pretty rough. You still might bring it in over other things depending on what you've got access to, but I think it's only worth thinking that kind of despite having all the protection still, maybe this isn't quite the right matchup for it.
Yeah, I'm just not huge on it when your opponent's playing Edicts and board wipes. It doesn't beat Fatal Push anyway. It does beat Fatal Push anyway because it's a 5-drop. But also you have to let it resolve, which in blue decks is hard to resolve 5 mana creatures. 5 mana 5/5s. But when you're playing Toxic Deluge main board, I think Tony thumbed it to the front, at least considering it. And I don't mind it at all, but it just doesn't stop Edict effects. It only stops bounce effects and maybe it stops Go for the Throat.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those situations where you think about the card, but you think, is this actually better than the cards I can pull out for it? And you just got to weigh up obviously the card has text in the matchup, but so do most of the cards in the main deck anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
what's the best configuration of 60 you can come up with?
Yeah. Thankfully, Luke found his early Toxic Deluge right on time on turn 3 to get rid of the monstrous cat and another creature.
Fleeceman Lion and Isamaru Anaconda.
There we
Luckily
go.
not monstrous, although it wouldn't matter against the Deluge
Yeah.
because it just gives it indestructible. But,
And hexproof.
yeah, I mean that also doesn't do anything.
Also
against Toxic
relevant,
Deluge,
and I thought I'd throw.
Don't forget about the hex.
it does give it a +1/+1 counter, which does matter against Toxic Deluge.
Yeah, that's right.
Fleeceman Line was the business back in the days of Standard.
Yeah, I mean it's still seeing a lot of play, and I mean we saw it in the
no
green
other
white
format.
Yeah, well, in no other format.
Well, no other format matters. So
Yeah.
that's okay.
That's exactly right. Here comes the Upson Bailoff.
Oof.
Not looking to wait for the Liliana that would inevitably come down at some point, but now he's actually in trouble if he does play this Liliana, which I don't think he has in hand, but he very well might. And all he would need is another black land to get rid of the Upson Bailoff. But I can understand Tony just being very excited to play it, considering it's gaining him a bit of life and it's a big creature.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not totally sure that I would be excited to play Upson Bailoff in this matchup. Luke is on, Hymn to Torak and Liliana of the Veil, but it's probably just kind of those two cards that are likely to get you a cheated Upson Bailoff into play.
And one of them being random, so it might not even work.
And the kind of the 4-mana 4/4 gain 4 life fail state isn't very good against pullback control. They're not usually trying to kind of race you in that way.
Yeah.
And their removal isn't burn spells, so the fact that it's a 4/4, it still gets fatal pushed.
Oof.
The mental misstep is quite nice though.
Yeah, that will help him. Wastes his revolt. Not that it really matters at this point, but it seems that Tony just didn't have anything better to play. He may as well just play out the Upson Bailoff. But don't forget, if it's the only card left in his hand, he can get Thoughtseized. So that is another way to put Upson Bailoff onto the battlefield.
If Luke is still playing Thoughtseize after sideboarding, I'd like to have some words with him.
That is very true. Luke, I think back with the back to basics. Gonna maybe try it again for this round, but I think in the face of a Gomag Angler, this Upson Bailoff does not look as good anymore.
No, I mean they're still at pretty similar spots if the creatures kind of just erase each other. If Luke cracks in, it's going to take him 4 swings to take out Tony. It'll take Upson and Bailoff 4 swings as well. Even a single fetch land would change that clock pretty dramatically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So neither player is really that incentivized to attack here.
Makes it a little bit easier with this back to basics, but I don't think the taking the life off this
Temple Garden.
Yeah, off this Temple Garden. He must have something very exciting to play for exactly 5 mana because he's willing to tap all of his lands for it. Crimson Zenith is a good card to do it with.
Well, I mean, even if he didn't have something good to go find, he'd be incentivized to pay the life because he just wants to have his lands.
Yeah. Here comes Nullhide Ferox. Yeah.
Another Obstinate Bailoff type card where if it's discarded, it gets to be put into play for free.
Tony's so excited to play them.
This one is also huge.
Yeah, this one a little bit larger than its Obstinate counterpart, but it has hexproof and you can pay to not have it have hexproof.
So
any player may activate the ability.
It has hexproof and also that the person who controls it can't cast non-creature spells.
Right.
And any player can pay 2 for both of those abilities to be shut off until end of turn. It's also a 6/6, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's a
the
big meaty lad.
Big meaty lad, and it will be standing alone as the Upson Bailoff did get dismembered, which is probably reasonable. But the Nullhide Ferox being a pretty good card. I mean, even hexproof with the downside of you can pay 2 life to have it not have hexproof. It's still mana. Pretty good. 2 mana. Does still make it pretty good. I mean, I'd be pretty happy to force my opponent to pay 3 for their fatal push, or 3 and 2 life twice for their dismember. So it requires a little even bit more because it's a 6/6 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting to see what Luke's kind of plan is here, because he did kind of immediately snap off that block with the Gomag Angler.
Yeah, he may have something. But he's also on 9. Maybe he just doesn't want to go to 3 in case his opponent plays some sort of hasty threat that he can't deal with. So
Sure. It's also possible that he was looking for, he's got a damnation hand, so he was probably just hoping, if the Gomag Angler is going to die anyway, you may as well hope that your opponent extends a creature or 2 additional into the damnation, right?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely seems reasonable now. You're saving 6 life points, which is definitely reasonable, but here comes the Eidolon of Rhetoric, expertly signed by the, I can only assume is the artist, but I think might be a little late to be playing Eidolon for it to truly matter, but it still chips in, which is going to be very
It is
important.
a 1/4, but that is unfortunately not nearly as big as Torrential Gearhulk.
Which will be blocking. Not flashing back anything of relevance, unfortunately, but it does block.
Yeah, the artifact creature defeating the enchantment creature.
Yeah.
Kind of really demonstrating what Wizards thinks about those card types and how powerful they should be.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Charlie is a little late to the party here.
Yeah, again, Tony just drawing his cards in the wrong order. He's going to take this big chunk of 5 here, but Torrential Gearhulk, since its release in Kaladesh, has been a very influential card for the blue X control deck, just being the one finisher that they like,
Yeah, I mean, some people do opt out of Torrential Gearhulk just because it is an artifact creature, and so it does die to cards like Kolaghan's Command and a Braid.
Yeah.
But it is also pretty hard to go past a 6 mana, I believe 5/6.
It's 5/6.
That also flashes back for free any instant in your graveyard. So
which includes Dig Through Time.
Yeah, Dig Through Time, your Mystic Confluence, any of your counter spells, your Cryptic Commands, just all of the options in the world are yours to have.
We did have a judge call because Luke was so excited with his mana drain that he just punched it off with this Loxodon Smiter no matter what. Judge came over, he said, "What happens here?" And he says, "Congratulations, you've cast your spell. It can't be countered, but you can still cast the spell."
Well, Luke does get 3 mana in his next main phase off that line.
Which is absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, he couldn't use it, but he didn't break any rules.
Yeah.
He could still absolutely cast a mana drain for no value.
I like how Tony has run out the Loxodon Smiter, the Nullhide, and the Obstinate Baloth. All things that benefit off the discard effect. And finally, Luke plays the Liliana.
Watch him have the last one in his hand.
Yeah. there is still the card Will Leaf Leech.
That's
so
true.
There is still a card that exists with that text on it. I don't know.
Unfortunately, he didn't have it in his hand when Luke ticked up.
Technically, also Basking Root Waller, although that one is not nearly as good.
Yeah, it's definitely a card.
Yeah.
Now, it'll be interesting to see if Luke decides to roll down the Liliana and lose it. He's in top deck mode, so they're both in top deck mode, so it doesn't really matter. Never mind, the Liliana is going to bite the dust anyway to the Loxodon Smiter.
Well, it kind of got forcibly -2'd.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah, it all works out perfectly. Because he would have had to swing with both because Torrential Gearhulk can only block 1. So I guess it all worked out in the end anyway, and Liliana did get to tick down just in Luke's opponent's turn, which worked out perfectly.
Usually something you only see with Teferi emblems.
That's right.
Luke's going wild today.
That's right. Speaking of wild, here comes the top deck Jace, which is pretty fantastic. I mean, he can downtick Tribal, which seems to be the line that he's going to go for with this one, where he just continually downticks Jace until he wins the game, because Torrential only needs 2 hits, and Tony doesn't have any more cards in hand, so it might just be the way to go. Although he is opting to just swing in, so...
Yeah, I mean, if Tony blocks and doesn't have a Locksmith's Manor anymore, that's great.
He can
if Tony doesn't block, he can always bounce it second main.
Yeah.
He's kind of in a position there where he didn't really care either way what Tony did.
And it worked out well for him, because here comes the Loxodon again, and another blocker. So he will be able to stay alive for one more turn, although here comes the counter.
That one can be countered.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I mean, you still can cast Counterspell against Loxodon Smiter.
You certainly can.
As we saw before. But yeah, it looks like Jace might just be going to the Shadow Realm. Never mind. We have the Edict. Again, we still had all these. Luke taking it down 2-0 in a very convincing demolition with his UB control deck versus Tony on Bant aggro. Unfortunately, we didn't Shardless Agent into any Green Sun Zeniths today, but we did get to see a lot of good cards come out of Tony's side, and a lot of good fun happened from both players. So congratulations to both players for a wonderfully spectacular game. Luke will make it through to the next round. Tony taking the loss for this one, unfortunately, affecting his points overall. But there are still many more rounds to be had, so please stay tuned for our next round of the CANCON 2019 National Highlander Championships. We've loved to talk to you, and we'll see you next round.